Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
You listen to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, the Jaguars are in a very interesting space. I could almost say once again, but I think this time is different. The Jaguars are in a very interesting space, and you wrote about it in particular, I believe, on BigCatCountry.com. They have an opportunity to be more than just a team that improved 9 games last year, Travis. They have an opportunity where people start putting their names in the Jaguars' names in their mouth. Now, granted, the national media will continue to not watch it. And, I don't mean to make fun of Richard Sherman or, any of the other guys, but let's see they probably won't come around till later next season if what you are prescribing actually happens. Let me lead with that. But it's very interesting what one could say is the upside for the Jaguars in 2026. I think that's a very interesting examination. As I mentioned on Wednesday's episode of the Duval Dive during the stream, which, by the way, Divers, strong performance by you, of course, once again, you have yet to don your "this team makes me drink" shirt, which is the biggest positive sign, not of hope or faith, but potential.
That's it. So I'm here. No, yeah, you're not wrong. The fact that potential remains, and the fact that now they have earned an off season of folks not breathing down their neck, not having the full disbelief of just saying we're going to see where this goes, because we've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base with their PTSD that is absolutely lingering there. We've seen when Doug Peterson replaced the wild Urban Meyer, that team immediately improved by 6 games. And then we've seen Liam Coen immediately replace Doug, and they were improved by 9 games. Both situations are seriously impressive, but we have seen this as a fan base and as a media crew in recent history. So, like, at the end of the day, this coaching staff and all of our conversations with them, they haven't been shy about the fact that they're aware that a first round wild card playoff exit isn't enough.
Right.
Like, what comes next is the biggest piece right here. Like, do they take that step into 2026, and kind of how do they continue pushing these guys to continue to have like that same fire when maybe the guys might recognize that the speech that this coaching staff might say before the game or after the game ain't hitting the same, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, let me give you your credit here, because this is something you've been consistent on in our, I think it's 3+ years of existence. Yeah, we've been on YouTube 2 years, but we've been at it, doing this show longer than that. And I'm going back that far because I believe even in Big Cat Country that you made the point that the Jags have a history of a coaching change. Things get right, and then things get wonky again. Yep. The opportunity to be a consistent contender, and dare I say, taking that first step toward perennial contender, right? That upside that I've even said Liam Coen has the opportunity to be the best GM the Jacksonville Jaguars have known. We're not ready to declare that. Settle down, Kyle. It's only 1 year. I can hear all you divers and Duval devout alike. You're correct. All I am in trying to imply here, divers, is that you need to take the first step in order to be that guy. And I think beyond a reasonable doubt, the baby step has been, right? One small step for Liam, one potential giant leap for Duval kind.
Right. They prove they can win. Now they got to prove that they can stay winning when folks know you're coming. And that's the next step. So, like, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're officially contenders. Like, I don't know how folks want to, like, they may not be quote unquote title contenders depending on which publication you read or who you're listening to. We got the Fox Sports NFL reporter Ralph Valenchanos. Has the front runners being the LA Rams, the Seahawks, and the Broncos. For some reason, he has the Broncos as front runners. All right, cool. The title contenders being the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills.
He's got the New England Patriots. Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, and the Eagles, and then has the Jaguars listed in the tier of being playoff locks,
which in itself an absolute accomplishment, right?
It's fair. No, it is like he has the Jacksonville Jaguars in that same tier of the Bengals and the Texans and the Bears. Again,
I don't know
they
why the Bengals
playoff
are there,
clocks.
but
I
okay.
don't know either because they're gonna get injured. Like you know what this is. But the fact of the matter is that we can talk about the other NFL teams and the other AFC teams later in the offseason. But my current focus is on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
This team is who they claim to be, or at least who they aim to be. Like
if they are who we think they are,
yeah, then they're absolutely contenders, especially in this wide open AFC side of the bracket.
And I was about to say, like you do mention you want to focus on the Jags, but I think part of the lens, and you said it very nicely there, the AFC is clearly the weaker conference, right? Like everybody knows the actual Super Bowl was the NFC conference championship game, right?
Yeah.
If you pick the Patriots outside of the state of Massachusetts, I really am interested in your thought process. I promise not to talk too much trash. You know, if I can avoid talking trash on the ACC while having former FSU player Fabian Lovett on the Storm Surge podcast, I can keep my mouth quiet for one episode. I'll talk trash in next episode. But no, listen, joking aside, the ACC being wide open is a thing. Like, there's a reason why the Texans are a playoff lock, and I'm not arguing with it because their defense is that good, right?
Yeah. Even if you don't win a division title, you're probably going to be that wild card team, especially with the weaknesses of some of the other teams in the AFC also. But no, this team has the tools, and you should generally expect them to be in the hunt, not so dissimilar to that Houston Texans team. And that sentence alone is something that Jacksonville Jaguars fans have been waiting on forever.
Can they finally get past? What is it? Let me do the math. The 18-year, 17 season. Yeah, no, I said it backwards. 17 season. No, 17-year, 16. Let me try that again. 17-year, 18 season drought of being. And actually, no, it's not enough. It's 28, isn't it? But going back to
1999 was the last.
So
1999 was the last time.
Yeah, it's 27 seasons, 26 years since back-to-back good years.
Back-to-back playoff appearances,
right?
Specifically, yeah, man. So
you can't know 9-win season is a good year. I've seen you. I've heard you talk.
It's not good enough for me. I'm consistent, man. Like, but the fact of the matter. So let's just start with the big man in charge, the Liam Coen effect. Like, you got Liam, who is, I mean, shout out to DTWD 904 Duval till we die. You know, Liam Coen the last 2 years as a play caller. I mean, back in 2024 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were 4th in the NFL in points, 3rd in the NFL in total yards, and 1st in the NFL in first downs offensively. And in 2025 with the Jaguars, they were 6th in the NFL in points, 11th in total yards, and 7th in first downs. Like, if you got to start with the coach, like, you have the right coach and you have the right offensive play caller, which is normally the hardest part. In 2025, they averaged 32 points a game. They hit the 30 mark 5 times in the final 9 games, and they scored at least 23 points in every game of their 10-game ending stretch. That by itself makes you a contender. With the fight, I mean, you're probably always going to have a fighting shot of having 9+ wins year in and year out if you can score that much points. So you got the right coach, kind of building on top of that. That's going to automatically make you a contender in my book.
So wait, and you said something that made me pause right there. I want to reiterate this because it's frankly, it's a big enough deal. Like,
sure,
they scored no lower than 23 points. Did I hear that right?
Oh no, yeah, no, they scored. Well, let's look at it. They scored at least 23 points in every game. In the final 10 games. So you got the
final 10 games. Gotcha. Okay.
Final 10 games. You got from week, what is this? 9 through 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Basically from the bye week on. Yeah. Gotcha. In every game you scored 23 points plus.
Okay. Because
shout out Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, like, you know, there was that the Rams game and the Seahawks game. That's what gave me pause. And then, you know, credit to the Texans defense, they scored only 17 in that game, right? So, but yeah, to your point, after the bye week, it was 23 points or more every time, and it's almost humiliating that lowest score came from the Colts. Oh my God.
Including the playoffs. They still scored 24 points in the playoff loss. So like overall, they are consistent, and you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to be a contender if you can do that like week in and week out in most games. Like shout out to Liam, shout out to that offense. But the defense is, I mean, that's always where I'm going to go. It's my area, but I think there's some merit here. There's some defense wins championships.
Facts.
And the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2025 season were what, 8th in the league in points allowed. So you're talking just right behind the Minnesota Vikings, just right above the Chargers. And I don't think folks really understand just how good this defense was last season and how underrated it is to have the right defensive coordinator. Because we talked about the right offensive coach. That's Liam Coen. That's the play caller. You're good.
Say, earlier you said they had the right coach. I think the correct answer is Coach Ez. And let me pull this graph up real quick. Here's what I think is interesting, Travis. Like there's a number of things, like we're going by the number of points, but there's plenty of anomalies in place, right? For example, the Niners are normally further down. They had a lot of injuries, right? That was a thing, right?
Sure.
Fred Wagner got hurt. But Kyle, why are you mentioning their injuries and not the Jags? Great question, Duval Devout. The Jags got what they got, suffering Trayvon Walker being hurt for how long again? For how many games where Eric Armstead was not all that in a bag of chips because of Father Time's an a-hole? Like that situation alone, all the injuries amongst
Travis Hunter, all the safety room.
Sure, dude. That's my point. Even with as much as it feels like all the time that you and I took our first Duval dive together those years ago, always the DBs at some point have a massive string of injuries. I'm saying that as a Niner fan that sees a lot of injuries on his team, right? Like, it's insane how much that group gets hurt. And that happened again in 25. And we talked about it less. Why? Because they were still stopping dudes.
So this is the fun part of this conversation, because folks love offense, and we just gave Liam Coen his credit and his feather in his cap and everything else to talk about that. But this is the part that folks probably ain't gonna like when I say it. But I think it's gonna sit with them for longer, and they're probably gonna think about it coming back years from now. Is you look at the top teams on that list.
Yes.
What do you see in common? Playoff Seattle, playoff Texans, playoff Broncos, playoffs Patriots, Eagles playoff team, and then you get the Kansas City Chiefs. So your first non-playoff team who was 6th in the league as far as points provided, and their offense struggles so mightily. Yeah. Vikings, and then the Jaguars. You're looking at, if you stopping teams from scoring is never going to go out of style. And the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 2025 season, they ended the season with a 10-1 record in games with the defense held teams to 21 points or less.
Woo.
10-1. So we're talking about the fact that the Jaguars offense kept scoring 23 points over and over and over, and that's cool. But that's the stat that I think all the pass happy fans in Duval County may have missed throughout the year. When the defense balled out, they won nearly every game but the Seattle game, where they lost 20-12 at home. And they probably should have, played better, scored more than.
Did their job, right? We've talked about that. We broke that game down even with Marcus Ogden about how the offensive line had what I would call their worst game that game, for sure.
But they went 3-4 in all the shootouts where opponents scored 22 points or more. Fast. So that's the interesting part for me, because I'm like, they had the close loss against Cincinnati, the close loss we just talked about against Seattle, the 8-point loss against Seattle. They had the close loss against Houston and the playoffs loss against Buffalo. All those games are those quote unquote shootouts where the opponent scored 22 points or more. When the defense balls out, it's a weekly race to 22.
And by the way, 19 of them in the Texas game was in a single quarter. Like, we got anomalies all over the place, right? First of all, Travis Hunter actually won the Cincy game. That was a horrible call. Sure. I maintain that.
But they won't score 22 points in that game either.
There you go. That's a great point by you, Travis. Holy snap. That one play completely changes the damn stat. Then, Davis Mills and his 19 fourth quarter. Damn. Anyways.
Yeah,
Ish
but
happens,
that's my point. Is like that's when the games become toss-ups. Like offense wins games, but defense wins championships. And now, when the offense played well, it's exciting but volatile in terms of the game outcome. But when the defense plays well, they won. You're talking 10 out of 11 games they won, and it's the same formula from my perspective this season. Like y'all have always heard me say this whole 21-point thing, and I've always thought this even when I was a college player. It was like, no, man, it's a race to 22, and it's no more prevalent than it is today. Race to 22. The Jaguars defense will be the reason that they have to stay contenders. It's Anthony Campanelli in that group, not Liam Coen's. And like it's good to have a team that can score, but it's always going to be better to have a team that can stop other teams from doing it.
Well, and let's be clear. This team's special teams, we dig it, right? The offense, we felt like needed improvements. The defense, we've said on this pod many times, did the job. If the offense gets to where it needs to be, guess what, folks? All three facets of the game, we officially have a balanced football team, Travis.
Right. Balanced in all the ways, like complementary football. So overall, like they are in a really good spot. But again, like that's kind of what I was talking about when you go back to that schedule. Like they were so good when that defense can just hold teams to. Again, the Kansas City game was even a big one because they won that one despite the defense struggling. Like that was an end of game. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the defense scored a touchdown. Devin
I'm about
Lewis
to say, let's remember the defense recovered themselves. Correct.
Yes, but the defense also could not get to stop late. And Trevor Lawrence had to get that late touchdown, trip and fall. You know,
it was Patrick LeVon Mahomes II. Let's be fair.
Yeah, it was 2025 Patrick Mahomes also, and that wasn't a normal Patrick Mahomes. And
I mean, listen, this is a separate pod, but I'm going to tell you this: Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs just got away with less than they had in the past because they actually trimmed down their roster so much. Father Time and all the mishaps finally caught up to them.
Yeah, man, catches up, especially with the money and everything else. I get it.
No.
But no, man. And so we've already talked about the fact that you got the hardest thing, which is the coach. Then you got the second hardest thing, was the other coach on the other side of the ball. You got both of those right. And
coaches, yes.
Yeah, the coaches. You got both of those right. And shout out Heath Farwell also. The Jaguar special teams. I mean, the fact that you have a top punter in the league with Logan Cook, you have a top kicker in the league, or a top kicker option in the league in Cam Little. Ross Madison, the highest paid long snapper in the league, all on the same roster.
The three headlining positions at special teams are all Pro Bowlers, or Pro Bowl caliber, I should say.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm with you there. So we've established all of that when you're talking about a team that is a potential contender.
Oh wait, real quick. I got to stop you. We can't leave Parker Washington out of that too, just for the
Absolutely.
record.
He's Pro Bowl caliber. If he didn't get hurt last year, he would have beaten the Tennessee Titans punt returner as far as being a Pro Bowl returner there. You're not wrong. But then after all of that, oh yeah, that's right. Quarterback. yeah, that's right. I forgot about that whole not so important position. The freaking quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, he always gives them a shot. Him being the quarterback is going to give them a shot, especially when you're talking about his game-winning drive, his propensity to come back and just take a victory from the hands of defeat, and sometimes take defeat from the hands of victory. Let's be honest. But
there were a few of those damn it Trevor moments in 25 than ever before. I think I can say that.
But he finished 2025 with 4,007 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. A 91.0 quarterback rating, while adding 359 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. Jesus, that's 38 total scores. Now the big thing for me is the turnovers.
Yeah.
And I say turnovers, I'm talking about not just the giveaways, but also the takeaways. Like, it's worth mentioning that the Jaguars were second in the league in turnovers in 2025, while tied for 13th in giveaways. So, like, that placed them third in the league overall for turnover differential. And with many of those Jacksonville turnovers kind of taking place in the how do I say this? When most of Jacksonville's forced turnovers on defense taking place in scoring range on the opposition side of the field, the defense was effectively scoring points, or at least giving the offense multiple opportunities to score additional points there. So from my head, I'm like, all right, cool. So a lot of that is absolutely Trevor Lawrence balling out of control at the end of the season, but it's also that the defense gave these guys extra opportunities to kind of get more points. So that's that complementary, that balanced football you were talking about. But as much as I love Trevor Lawrence, we saw the end of the season fly, this high flying passing attack and all of this, offense and everything else. The thing I want to see, frankly, I'm okay seeing less cover of Madden Trevor Lawrence and more every drive just ending with the kick, whether it's a punt or a field goal or extra point or whatever. Like less offensive turnovers and more running the ball results in more wins for this team. I think that's
less hero ball because, and let's put it this way:
like
if there's less hero ball, that means they're less in trouble in the first place. They're controlling the games better, which is the whole physical metamorphosis of the team. That's what they're trying to accomplish, right?
That's it. You called it less hero ball because that's exactly similar to the Buffalo Bills and how we said Josh Allen would act in the playoffs. If you make him play hero ball, he's going to fail, or it's going to be a lot of craziness going on. I think the Jaguars are in a similar spot there. Right. I think if the more times you force him to do hero ball, the outcome can be all over the place, both good and bad. Like you don't know what you're gonna get. You can get the hero, or you can get the dude that threw a pick right into the linebacker's chest in cover 4 coverage just because. I know there's going to be somebody out there who disagrees with me and they're going to point to the Denver Broncos game or the Jets game and be like, hey, look, I get it.
Hey, and you know what? You could also say to them, CJ Stroud got a lot worse than that. Anyway.
No, I could say I can do one better. I'll point to the Jaguars schedule and I'll point back and say, look at the Seattle game or look at the Buffalo game. In either of those games, if you run the ball better and you don't turn the ball over all those times, you probably win. Volatile. That's what I mean. So you win by the pass, you die by the pass. And Trevor's a huge reason that this team is a contender, but he is also a part of the reason that they need to kind of protect him from himself occasionally. Like I think both things can be
put
true.
Him in a bad position. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah.
So they gotta get the run game to close games out and help the defense keep scores low. I think that's a fair compromise in both being balanced football team on both sides of the ball. That's where we are.
On that, we shan't front. Balance has been something we've preached on this podcast 100%.
So my biggest concern surrounding whether Jacksonville can continue being a long-term contender is mostly about injuries, and that's a weird spot to be in because I don't always feel that way with this team. There are still questions, don't get me wrong, but like it's injuries at certain position groups and also the timing of when certain guys will or hopefully will make their developmental jumps. And what I mean by that is like last year we saw Antonio Johnson make the jump. We saw him make the jump when he was given the opportunity, but that was through a combination of weird factors or odd factors. Like Duuuval Winger was struggling. Caleb Ransall was injured in the preseason. Eric Murray's mid-season neck injury. And this year I'm looking at a guy like Emmanuel Pregnon. Like he's someone.
And why not? Because Cole Van Lannon was last year's on the O-line.
I mean, yeah, but E-Man, he's someone I can clearly see as being a starter by year end, but I don't know that I see him taking a spot from Patrick McCarry or Wyatt Milam by week 1. So,
which is funny because a lot of other analysts on this show, shouts to JP Acosta and Emery Hunt both, would disagree.
Yeah, they disagreed actively on the pod, and we had that conversation. And I'm okay saying, hey, I'm okay being wrong, and I would love for guys to prove me wrong. That's dope if it does, but that's just where I stand. And again, this is we haven't seen pads. This is just my perspective, just on college tape. And guys will disagree on college tape all the time. I'm here for it. But
consensus board, woo!
Because he's a dog in the run game. That's exactly what Jacksonville needs in the early part of their schedule. You can use a dog in the run game at all points in the schedule, to be clear, but that's when they need someone in the early parts of that schedule. Like you look at the opening schedule for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm just like, that's where my primary concern pops up. Like you're talking about you opening with the Cleveland Browns, Denver Broncos, New England Patriots. How many of these teams did I just name were on the top of that last list as far as points? Yeah. Right. New England Patriots, Cincinnati, Philadelphia Eagles, Houston Texans, and the Baltimore Ravens. I skipped over the Indianapolis Colts, but they're still fine. Like they're fine defensively.
Well, and what is it? I think the streak of wins in Jacksonville against the Colts over there at Everbank for now is older than both our oldest children. So there's
might be. Yeah. Well, I think it's 12. No, I think it's 11 years, isn't it?
Oh, it's close then.
Yeah, it's close. We getting there. But
the fact that we have to have the conversation says a butt ton. That's all I'm saying.
But that's one of my questions, like the likelihood of when guys make their leap early versus when the schedule kind of starts to ease up after that bye week. So like there's that lingering possibility that maybe the team could end up finding themselves in a hole early if they're not firing on all cylinders, especially when we're talking run game specifically. That's when you're kind of hoping that the passing game and the defense can kind of supplement any potential early run game struggles or O-line struggles or whatever else.
Right.
But that's my only concern, I should say.
Quickly, to point it out for those that don't know, here are the breakouts that had to happen, right? Cole Van Lannon.
Yep.
You mentioned, I would argue Parker Washington.
Antonio Johnson.
Antonio Johnson. Thank you for reminding me. Monteric Brown, I think, had to break.
Sure. Yeah.
Break out, and that own way got him his
Tyson Campbell being jettison.
Correct. That's part of the breakout process, I think, right? That happening, got him his contract and got the Jags. And then, of course, I have to mention Devin Lloyd, granted not on the squad anymore, so that's interesting. So, like, all of those dudes had to break out. And I think the Jags
team had kind of broken out before, but he still broke out to a level that we hadn't seen before.
I'm not counting Etienne because I think he retained his role. He was just healthier.
That's fair. So yeah, that's not nothing.
Strange, of course, if he had stayed healthier too. I'll count him.
Sure. So that's not nothing. And we had the conversation after the coaches roundtable with offensive line coach Sean Sarrett, and that's posted on the Duval Dive YouTube for any of you who haven't seen it. So check out that snippet of the conversation.
Reason for the bell is to remind Travis to promote. I'm kidding.
Yeah, but from that conversation, the team believes from that conversation that the primary run game issue was the injuries up front. Like Coach Sarrett didn't directly mention an individual on the line, like as far as the injuries are concerned. But what we know,
McCarry, right? I mean,
well, no, it's not just Patrick McCarry, because we know Patrick McCarry, he was injured early in the offseason with that back injury, and that ended up resulting in him missing weeks 17 and 18 and a portion of the playoff game, I believe.
But also playing at a reduced level.
That's it. Because he was on the injury reports as early as like week 4 in the season with injury. So back on Wednesdays, Duval died. That's why I wanted to look back at the week 1 performance through the week 5 performance before they had the real injuries kind of popping up. It was based on that conversation with Coach Sarrett. And then you have the Ezra Cleveland ankle injury that was starting in week 3 through the bye week.
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Right. And then they lost Robert Hainsey for like a little more than 2 games, and he was first injured back in week 5 with the hamstring injury. And for anybody who's ever played sports, hamstring injuries don't just go away. Like, you need some extended rest at that period, right?
And you don't know when you could come back. It sucks.
And then he had a groin injury in week 17,
which the two are probably related. Let's be honest.
Yes. So I'm saying, and then you lose Cole Van Lannon for the postseason. They obviously lost Brenton Strange also in week 5 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
You should hear this combination of factors. I just said it this is for your top 5 guys plus Brenton Strange. Yep. Like, across the board, I'm like, all right, that's a lot. I can see your argument there if you're saying your run game fell off just because there was a lot going on basically starting week 5. And that's also when your offensive health basically just fell off a cliff. I can see that argument. Sure. You had no cohesion, no consistency there. But then you see their actions. And I'm a person that always believe that I believe your actions way more than your words. Their immediate follow-up action as a team was frankly overdrafting a dominant blocking tight end in Nate Borkacher. That was the next thing that they did. And it kind of feels like they believe that they had the right formula, but just not enough depth to cover for injuries. And that's why the big thing for me was like, oh, they think that Brenton Strange was a huge part of that run game, and they needed a second Brenton Strange to make sure that, oh, hell no, that ain't never happening again. that's how I viewed it.
I agree with that wholesale. Like we this was a pro Brenton Strange podcast. As much as I hated him being drafted at the time, This is a pro Britton Strange podcast. I don't think there's
I
middle
hated
ground.
him being drafted at the time late. Dang. But no, but
listen, I'll put my name on it. I made a mistake. It happens, man.
but we talked to Coach Coen about about this after day 7 of the last open day of OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and his comments about the edge when talking about Nate Broacher was something that kind of just piqued my interest. So
Hunt, Grant Udinski, when you guys drafted Borkacher, said he was going to change the offense. Why is that?
Yeah, I think it just allows some of our, similar to like what Jacoby did in ways, allowing not just himself to come get integrated and do what he does well, but also what it allows for the other guys to do. And so as much as, man, we love Brenton Strange blocking, and he's so tough, he wants to do it. He's physical. He'll bite you. We also missed some time last year in which our record, and when you look at when he has production, what our record looks like is kind of interesting to see. And so allowing Brenton to continue to do what he does well, but also to maybe take some of that wear and tear, some of the pounding that it takes when you're blocking Trayvon Walkers of the world and Josh Hines-Allens of the world, getting them matched up more on those linebackers and safeties. And now he's an advantage for us. Now we have an edge. So we always feel good about Strange blocking at the point of attack, but we needed some help there. And being able to provide Strange an option to go maybe split out or go block other people that maybe keep them out of some of those one-on-one big situations. I think that's going to help us tremendously.
That is damn fascinating, to your point.
Right. And that's why I'm like,
see, it's interesting. You say some stuff and nothing, I'm taking nothing from it because we're both speculating in a way. You know what I'm also picking up in there? Having to help Walker Little, having to block at the point of attack, having to deal with that situation. Granted, blocking most of the time is in the run game, but how many times have we talked about chipping or helping out and all of that there too?
The last play of the Jacksonville Jaguars 2025 season against Buffalo Bills, you got 2 people who can't block one pass rusher who was in Trevor Lawrence's lap as he throws the interception to end the game against Buffalo. That is also a thing that happened with Walker Little. and when what if your tight ends that you're not, if you're speculating, it's not a bad thought process, especially when you don't know what's going to come out of Coen Lanning.
But I am bringing it up, just saying.
But he specifically mentioned Strange missing Coen specifically mentioned Strange missing time in 2025, and that Nate.
You said that. I heard him, and we want to put him more on linebackers and other players, and not necessarily the point of the attack. You trying to stop him from hitting the 250 plus club
because you want to have somebody else do it, or you can have him do it and him hitting the safety that's coming down because of all there's more of these three safety looks on defenses now. Also, he says it gives the Jacksonville Jaguars offense an edge, which to me, that's like I said earlier, that feels like they said, hell nah. Never again will we be stranded if we lose Brenton. Give me more options, Jimmy Stones.
This is why Gronk was great for the Patriots. And there was a year where he was the MVP over Brady, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, they seem to believe that with Coen Lanning Coen Lanning back into the fold and healthy and everything, the additions that they've added up front at tight end, a healthy Patrick McCarry, the development of the second-year guys potentially, like that they'll again be a top 5 run offense that we saw open up the 2025 season. They seem to believe that they got the guys in house and that they'll be better than what we saw in the end of 2025. On Wednesday, we look back and to see how the team looked in the week 1 against Carolina, both the good and the bad. And I just hope that they're right, because I still thought, even looking at the Carolina tape, even looking at the early, there were still some opportunities there, but I can see what they're looking for, because that's not the ceiling. There's still development that exists.
Yeah, it's week 1. Come on. You know.
Right. I ain't trying to kill them just on that. But at the end of the day, I see what they're aiming for. Hopefully they hit the mark, man.
There's some there. The pendulum swing isn't an unrealistic one. And I don't think the pendulum swings very wide for this team, barring, of course, injuries at the wrong places. Quarterback specifically, obviously. But
you got the biggest places. Defensive coach and the defensive staff offensive coach, offensive staff, and quarterback, bro. Like, phew, that's what you need. Like, so I have to believe in them. But again, if the injury bug hits the wrong team at the wrong time, then you don't have to just fight for your life, survive.
That's true of any team, of course. But yeah, survive and advance. It's survive. I like that. That's tight. Anyways, Travis, man, tell the world where you could be found.
Man, you already know. You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. You can find all my writing covering the Jaguars on bitcatcountry.com. And if you're listening to us on the YouTube side, please click that like button. It helps us out tremendously. And we appreciate you so much for supporting local content, for supporting journalism, local journalism, and supporting Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval till we die. It's all of us versus all of them. Support your local Jacksonville Jaguars podcasters, your local Jacksonville Jaguars media, and anyone that's just within the Duval County media space, because those guys deserve it. Those guys need it, man. But yeah, where you can be found. Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, and let them know where you can be found, bro.
First time, Kyle Nash, the Stu of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my work covering the Orlando Storm with the Storm Surge podcast. We're just about ready to have a very interesting conversation. We know Jack Plummer was the MVP of the league, but was there another member of the Storm who should have had his hat in the ring for true ball knowers? We'll get to that on the Storm Surge here with me and BP. Of course, my work covering the UCF Knights on Locked On UCF and UCF Night Zone, as well as what you may have seen from me covering Sean Sweeney, the new Orlando Magic head coach there. So there you go. All the things happening here, and it's just the off season. I'm not even watching World Cup. I don't have time. USA or something. Anyways, so for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, for all you divers kicking it and making it look smart in the comments, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.